Hi, my name is Kit. I'm a TEFL teacher. I've been teaching for 9 years now, 2 years in Poland, a year in Italy, and since then here in London.
Kit, what were your objectives for this lesson and what did you want the students to get out of it?
Well, mainly to learn some useful expressions for directions, which would be particularly relevant for them actually staying in London. So, you know, they have the chance to use them in a real situation, in the real world.
At the beginning of the lesson you explained what you were going to do in some detail. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Do you always do that?
I do. Signposting the lesson for me helps me to keep it on track, and it also provides a sequence for the students so they can see that there's some logic behind what they're learning. The other thing that's quite useful is using that as a tool for consolidating the lesson afterwards, actually referring to the points on the board and saying, well, what do you understand by this point? You know, when we say asking directions, can you give me some examples? So, you know...
It's a very good summarising.
It's something I started doing a couple of years ago. You know, I actually learned, well, I watched another teacher doing it and thought it actually seemed to work quite well, and so I did it.
At the beginning of the lesson you dictated a whole lot of questions to the students. So why did you dictate the questions rather than, say, just giving them the questions?
Well, first of all, it provided listening and writing practice for them, but also helped to actually keep the students engaged. The questions were actually in the book, but I've found from experience that it's often a good idea to dictate it to keep them engaged. I also think that dictation often helps in a kind of learner-trainer. Well, there's an element of learner training to it. I ask the students to look at each other's questions and actually start the process of learning how to kind of correct their own mistakes, rather than relying on the teacher to actually do that all the time.
Do you normally teach coursebook-based lessons, or was that untypical?
Certainly in London, you know, we use a course book to underpin the course. I think course books are a very useful resource for teaching, but obviously after a few years of experience, you realise that there are certain strengths that you have as a teacher to modify the course book in some ways. In a sense, that's what the dictation was for me. It was modifying the strengths of the book with my own personal strengths, really.